The HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast is powered by Cornerstone Gundog Academy. CGA is the world's most comprehensive online gun dog training resource. They've got over 160 instructional videos that includes everything you need to take your 7-week-old puppy to a finished gun dog. Visit cornerstonegundogacademy.com to sign up for the free preview module and begin your training journey today. Cornerstone Gundog Academy, the most advanced gun dog training resource on the web. You are listening to the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. Since 1898, Old Town has been building the most advanced, quality watercraft products to give you the very best experience on the water. Whether you're hunting, fishing, or enjoying a relaxing paddle on the lake, there's a boat for every type of adventurer. If you haven't seen it, check out their newest offering, the new grab-and-go watercraft designed to function as your boat, blind, and retriever. The easy-to-conceal, 11-foot 9-inch, 56-pound Solo Sportsman is the ideal craft for those in search of a stable, lightweight craft that's easy to paddle and even easier to transport or stash. Designed with the hunter and angler in mind, the Solo Sportsman is equipped with thoughtful shell, tackle, and tool storage, a comfortable and adjustable seat and foot braces, an accessory track, and rod holders. Check it out at oldtowncanoe.com/sportsman. Out in the field, how you've prepared determines how you'll perform. With balanced fat and protein to support peak condition, Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food enhances strength, energy, and endurance. So when the pavement ends and the truck doors swing open, you and your dogs are ready for anything. Strong, focused, ready for anything? That's a Eukanuba dog. Original design, select grade components, superior sound, and unparalleled service. 737 takes exceptional pride in producing the finest quality, best built premium calls on the market today. They're made right here in America, and they're offered only direct to consumers through their website. Shipping in the U.S. is always free, and international orders are also accepted online. A 20-day money-back guarantee and lifetime warranty accompanies every call purchased. 737 Duck Calls. Lead the flock. Soundgear is offering a 35% discount to the HP Outdoors listeners for their instant fit industrial and shooter products. You can head over to soundgearhearing.com and use the promo code HPO35 to claim your discount today. Gunner kennels are engineered for your dog, designed for travel, and built for your peace of mind. The G1 kennel has set a new industry standard and put Gunner in a category all its own. They were started to protect your pet, and it continues to be at the center of everything that they do. Gunner is dedicated to building the best and safest pet travel crate on the market because man's best friend deserves man's best kennel. Check out their G1 series of kennels and accessories at gunner.com. All right, welcome to episode 196. Man, that number's getting up there. Of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl podcast. I'm your host, Josh Palm, and this is your on-demand audio source for all things waterfowl and waterfowl hunting. If you're new to the show, head over to hpoutdoors.com. You can find all of our past episodes there. You can also find our show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all the places where you can find quality podcast content. Our show's there. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're a Facebook user, head over to our listeners group. You can join there, chat with a bunch of like-minded hunters. You can also chat with my co-host, Dan Harushka there. Dan, what's up, man?
Not too much, Josh. I'm excited about this episode for a few reasons, but, just thinking about why we created the show and friendships made and, journeys across country to hunt with different people, just kind of making it full circle. And, we talked about bringing some guys on to just chat about, we never claim to be experts of every type of hunting. Even probably the hunting that we do, we are always learning, right? So talking to a gentleman today that, gets it done, and we'll get into that. But it's just cool to kind of know a little bit of a backstory and see things come full circle. So just excited, man. Excited to be here.
You're gonna do all that and not introduce him?
No, go ahead. I'll leave that to you.
My God, Bobby, I apologize for my co-host Dan's inability to be a even halfway reasonable guest, but Bobby, Bruce, we are excited to have you on the show this week. We thought about this tonight. I threw this idea at Dan. I was like, let's just put a post in the group and just see who wants to come on. And really the idea behind this episode is, we spent 196 episodes now talking to not only industry professionals, but me and Dan sharing stories about our hunting and how we do it and where we go and all these kinds of things. Um, and what we hear so often is that it a lot of people can really relate to kind of the things we talk about and the way we go about things, but we also realize that we live in the Atlantic Flyway. We primarily hunt here, and there's a lot of people around the country that do it a lot different than us, um, and still, kind of cut from the same cloth as we are, but just because of where they live or their circumstances, just have it a little bit different. So we wanted to go and kind of just grab somebody that can come on and talk. So we're excited to have you here, and we're pumped up to chat a little bit about you and kind of how you get after it, where you're at, and all that good stuff. And you were sharing some stuff with us before we started recording about the show and the community and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping we could talk a little bit about that too. But before we get too far down the road, tell us a little bit about yourself. As far as the hunting terms, where do you live, how long you've been doing it, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Yeah, so I'm Bobby. I live down in Houston, Texas. So actually in a town called Katy, which is more of a city now, of Houston itself. But Katy was everything. I've heard this term of multiple different locations, but I've seen pictures and things of the old days back here where it used to be the goose hunting capital of the world. I mean, I've heard that about like 5 different places in the United States.
Right.
And, yeah, I'm like, how many goose hunting capitals of the world can there really be? But I've seen pictures from back in the day in this area. I mean, where there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of geese. And you don't see that anymore. But they've all pushed to different areas because housing is now where rice fields were. But
Yeah.
which it's sad, but it is what it is. So actually,
Now, are you a Texas native or are you a transplant there?
No. I'm a Texas native. I'm a
Okay.
Texas native. Yeah, I grew up in or born kind of grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and I moved down to Houston um, when I was a kid. So I've lived in Houston now for quite some time.
Okay, cool.
Um, but yeah, as far as like my hunting career actually started, uh, shockingly not in Texas. It actually started in the Atlantic Flyway uh, in North Carolina. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and a really good friend of mine, my old neighbor Seth Gagnon. There's one day I saw him, and he was outside. He was washing his boat or doing something. He had a bunch of decoys, and I was like, "Man, that looks pretty fun." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know if it's fun all the time, but it's fun." And I was like, "Well, do you care if I just tag along with you one day? I've never done it before." And he's like, "Yeah, man, let's go." I was like, "Hey, awesome!" And that was really my first introduction to that. We were hunting the intercoastal waterway there off eastern North Carolina, and I spent many a days. I will tell you, not shooting anything and watching a lot of things happen. That was my first introduction, but it fostered into some different things for me. It did more of an appreciation for what I was doing than every time going out and shooting limits and limits and limits of birds. Like I don't know. It was weird. I fell in love with it without having that ultimate goal immediately attained. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with that, and where we kind of rolled into from the intercoastal waterway was hunting this swampland that the state goes in and clears a path to, and it's this flooded timber area. And I'm not going to get into where exactly it is because I don't really remember, but that's where I shot my first wood duck, and I will never forget it, man. It was a great time, and I owe it all to Seth because really without him, I probably would have thought about doing it all the time or not gotten into the depth that I am now. And I honestly, I really do owe pretty much all of that to him. So
Nice. Shout out to
It's
Seth, man.
Thank you, Seth. It seems like a lot of Carolina boys and and girls shoot a lot of wood ducks. Is that what you primarily got into down there?
Yeah. There was, I mean, there was a ton of wood ducks there, man. There is a crap ton in that area that we were hunting. I mean, there's a lot of diver ducks too, especially over there on the Intercoastal Waterway. And the New River, another one of the podcast listeners, Jacob Britton, he could tell you that it floods up with bluebills. I mean, they're everywhere. So, I mean, there's a range of fowl there, if you will, from all different species. And then, you know, the Canada geese roost all over Camp Lejeune. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, it's crazy because you see the kids marching in formation and everything. Then every once in a while they'll get a little bit too close to a goose and start hissing at them and stuff. And that's when they start breaking ranks and they're like, you know, like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, Sergeant, the goose is trying to attack me. And yeah, it's just there is quite a few different things there to shoot at. Yeah.
So how far away is that from like Outer Banks?
Not very far at all.
Okay, because I mean, from going down there on vacation and seeing all the history, and you know, every beach has some kind of sign on it with what the duck hunting used to be like, and you know, I'd obviously have to stop and try and read all of them between chasing kids around on the hot sand. But I always thought like, man, this would be pretty cool. You know, not in July, like to come down and see what actually goes on. So that's pretty cool that you got to experience all that.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a multitude of different hunting environments very early into my, I would say, hunting career, if you will. But it was great being able to see how really multifaceted it really is, and the depth that you can go or not go, because there's some guys that just keep it super simple, and there's other guys who get really into it, and sometimes those guys who are just doing the most simple, basic little blind off the water right there, and they're just smashing limits, and you're like, man, like what is that? You know, what am I not doing? And I'll tell you what it was, and what I learned over the years was scouting, you know, way more than you ever hunt. And a lot of people miss that mark, and they don't learn that. They just go out there and they throw some decoys on the side of the water, and they're like, man, I hope some ducks come into this. I'm like, well, you know, I don't know if there's any ducks there, bud, but you know, have you seen any birds over here? And they're like, no, not really. I'm like, well, I mean, you might maybe see one or two way in the sky. I don't know, but so yeah. No, but to answer your original question, yeah, the Outer Banks isn't too far. I forgot what they call it exactly. It's like the southern Outer Banks, if you will, in that area. And we went there a few times, my wife, for vacation type stuff, driving over there. But no major hunting out there. And I've heard and I've watched videos of some guys that they do some pretty crazy stuff in those curtain blinds out there. And that was something that I always wanted to do, but I never got to do it. And I forget, some people call them different things. I've heard the term before, but it's like where that blind is like down in the water, and it's anchored,
like a sink box type thing.
Yeah, sink box. Yeah, and those, I mean, that stuff's pretty crazy to me. I mean, when I'm a little spoiled with ankle deep water, but yeah, doing that, I was just like, oh man, that's pretty crazy.
So when you left North Carolina, did you just move right back to Texas then? And kind of get back, and did you were you a hunter before this, or was this like when you know did you hunt big game and stuff like that and then got into ducks, or was this like your first experience?
Deer hunting, yes. As far as like duck hunting, no. I mean, that North Carolina was my first thing. I never grew up being invited. Like, my parents always went, but it was like a point of solace for my you know, my stepdad at the time, and he was like, yeah, I'm not taking you with me. I'm like, oh, okay, well.
Appreciate you.
Like, oh, like, so, all right, well, I'll sit at home. But you know, now looking back, I'm like, dang, man, like, missed out on a bunch of stuff there. But yeah, as far as deer and stuff, and I mean, deer hunting, yeah, I'm a lot more experienced with that than I would say with the fowl side of things.
So when you came back to Texas, was it like a learning process again for you to figure out where you could dunk hunt, or was there like spots where you, as a deer hunter, were like, man, I saw ducks on those spots, but I never really thought twice about it because that's something that I experienced a lot. I grew up deer hunting and turkey hunting and hadn't really got into waterfowl because nobody in my family did. And now looking back on it, I was like, man, if I was hunting ducks and waterfowl at that time, I would have had so many spots and I could have just had banger hunts. But at the time, I just had no appreciation for it. Like it wasn't even on my radar. Like, was your situation similar, or were you like, were you at
No,
ground zero and you just had to like start hitting the ground and trying to find spots?
so something kind of weird here in comparison to some other states, which I would give an example of Kansas, which I've most recently been blessed with visiting and hunting. Um, you can't really go up to a landowner here and be like, hey, I want to hunt your pond. Because 9 times out of 10, that pond's probably leased or something with an outfitter locally in that area. So, no, I mean, what I normally do now is I get on a hunting club, or I try to find a good solid hunting club to get on and scout it as much as you can and, hope that the birds are going to be in that area that year. I mean, it's pretty tough
So
in
I,
this
I got a
specific
question
area.
about that. So how do hunting clubs work? Because the only club I've ever been in was with a deer hunting club, and the way we did it was the properties had grids basically, and you would reserve a grid for that day. So you would get like a square acreage that would be yours, and you had to stay in your stand like from like sun up till 9 a.m. or whatever, and then during the day you can monkey around, whatever. That's neither here nor there. Is it just simply blinds that you draw, or is it like a lot? Like, how do you figure out priority, and like how do they set up the spots? They all predetermined, like.
So there's areas that are already picked out, and they'll in the beginning of the season, typically they're going to give you a map, and they're going to say, hey, here's all the ponds, and these are this is the huntable area, this is a non-huntable area, here's your boundaries, etc., etc. Some clubs are set up like that where you call in and say, hey, I'm going to pond X, and that's where I want to hunt. You call the night before, and it's like, hey, if you were the first in line, your name's on the list, and that's the pond you get to hunt. Now, there's other clubs where it's a rotational basis, where, hey, this week, guys, you guys are hunting blind 1. Okay, so Saturday, well, they'll hunt 3 days a week, usually like Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Everything else is off limits for let the birds rest. And so they're like, hey, you hunted blind 1 Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever it is, and then but next week you're hunting blind 2. And it's just on a rotational basis. So every club has a different way of doing it. Is there a right or wrong way? I don't really know.
Which one do you prefer? Like,
I've
what's
killed
been your
ducks in
best?
both. I've killed ducks in both ways. I think that having a rotational basis is good because then you don't have the argumentative nature with some people or in this sport, if you will, or this way of life that oh, that's my pond, and I've been scouting that for 3 weeks, and all this other stuff, and bad blood gets over that, and it can happen quick, man. I mean, people turn on people on a dime on this thing. It's crazy how
Yeah.
how twisted it can get, and so do I appreciate the rotational basis of things? Yeah, because it takes that out of it. Now, do I appreciate also those who put in more effort and go out there and scout and say, hey, I want to hunt this blind because I know I've been scouting this for a week. Like,
Mm.
and you time it on the money to get your name in that pot first. So I think that both ways are effective. Would I say one over the other? If I have time to scout, absolutely, I'm going to do the one where I can go pick where I want to hunt at. And those other guys who don't scout and they just go hunt, every day of the week, they might get a limit one day, maybe not. So
is there how much, if any, public land is around you to go out and hunt?
me specifically, not a whole lot. There's some stuff within an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I since I've moved home, I've heard such horror stories about it. I really don't even attempt it, just because that I just hear guys, they have such bad experiences with other dudes that are out there that I just don't want to get involved with something that far away from home that I don't know. And my brother-in-law, I actually hunted with him the first year that I moved home, and he grew up duck hunting, and he told me, he's like, listen, man, I did the public land game here. That's cool and everything, but I don't feel like getting in my truck and sitting at the WMA the day before to try and get in there and put my name on a tag to hunt that next morning. And I'm like, yeah, I can see where that's probably a problem now, especially because I have to go to work. So,
Right.
but yeah,
When
no,
you
the
talk
public
about
land.
scouting, I mean, it's like, it's so hard when you got to drive an hour and a half to get someplace, to scout. I mean, you can only do that so many times just because life gets in the way. So
Exactly,
it makes it hard.
Having 2 kids now and full-time job or whatever, and doing all that stuff, and scouting becomes, like you said, it becomes difficult to do that just because I don't always have the time allotted for that. That time gets taken up by my wife or my kids doing this or my kids doing that. And now mind you, my wife has blessed me with her patience when it comes to the consistency that I like to go hunting. Yeah, hashtag. Yeah. So, yeah, I have, she is very understanding when it comes to that. And now there are times where she cracks the whip and she says, hey, um, no. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So, but yeah, so that's a big thing, for, I'm sure both of you guys understand that time is critical in that area. So
No doubt.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. And you're a girl dad, right?
I am a girl dad. Yep. I'm done. Also, I went and saw, my favorite doctor and said, hey man, I'm tapping out. You try, it's like the World Series, it's bottom of the night. You've been batting like crap the whole game. The coach is like, listen, son, time to hit the pine pony. You ain't going back in there. And, and I think that guys with 3 daughters are guys who thought they could have a son.
Yep.
So, it's not going to be me. I'm just not doing it. So no, I absolutely refuse, because I can already see it's a beautiful thing watching your kids grow up and watching their mentalities start to form and their personalities start to form. And my 2 girls are, man, let me tell you, they're I'm gonna pay for my transgressions. I'll tell you that. So, yeah.
Are any of them future PETA members like Dan's one daughter?
No, I mean, I don't know. So I don't either.
She's
Some
loving
explaining there, Dan. But
oh, let me tell you this
but
story real quick.
yeah.
Let me pop in here. So we went. There's this place about a little over an hour away where you can rent ski equipment for a season, and it's cheap and it's good stuff. So I take him down there today. We go and get ski boots for him for the year. We're on the way back, and there is a flatbed on the side of the road. So I start slowing down. Well, then I look up, and there's a tractor pulling like a freaking longhorn steer. It's done. It's dead. Pulling it down like through the snow and just like plowing the field with it, like behind this tractor. And I was like, oh, okay, like that's happening right here. And I turned back. I was like, do you guys see that deer or that cow that's about to turn into a hamburger? And first one that says anything, Dawson looks at me. He goes, Dad. I said, what's up, buddy? Are there any farms that don't kill animals? And I was like, oh no. And I was like, who's hungry for lunch?
You guys want burgers for lunch?
So where do you think those chicken nuggets come from, bro?
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, so there were a few questions that happened in the next hour. I mean, that was right when we started. And,
I can only imagine. Yeah.
But
That's
No,
funny.
my oldest daughter, she's a control freak, and she likes to control what she eats. So typically, if it's not a peanut butter jelly or something of that childish nature, grilled cheese, she's not eating it. And like the other day, I got her to eat mac and cheese, and she would. And I remember the first time I tried to get her to eat mac and cheese, and I yeah, my patience was tested that day, because I have never seen a kid cry trying to eat mac
man,
and cheese before. But my youngest daughter, though, she's like a garbage can. I mean, she just she just eats everything. So, like this evening, I got home and I went to one of my buddy's house, and my wife and kids were over there playing with his kids, and they had eaten pizza, and Katie, my youngest daughter, she ate some pizza, and she was eating something else, and then one of the other kids didn't eat his pizza, and later I found her over there like eating it's like leftover pizza. I was like, gosh dang, I mean, you would assume that we don't feed you, but I mean that girl, she eats. So yeah. No, not Emma might be a vegan. But she has somewhat of a killer instinct sometimes. So maybe she just doesn't like the taste of it. Maybe she's in it for sport, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know.
Kill.
Yeah. Yeah.
so what what are you what are you kind of focused on now, hunting wise? More ducks than geese? Are you still after the geese a little bit, or what do you mainly focus on?
Ducks. I am a novice goose hunter at best. I can help do the stuff. I'm learning more, but that's I would like to think of goose hunting as a very, very honed skill, because those guys, man, they get out there and they're looking at that spread, and I mean, there's guys that, I mean, if that's not perfect, I mean, they're moving it, and then they're moving it, and they're moving it, and they're moving it, and with I have not grown that keen eye for that, and I try to think of it as I'm putting these things down. And they're like, man, just don't put them in a line, or do this or do that. And I'm just like, man, like, you guys are making this like really difficult. Like, I just want to set some stuff down, and I want to walk back to the blind because it's 4:00 in the morning, and I'm tired, and my brain's not fully functional yet. So, no, I am definitely primarily focused on ducks. So
with your club, do they does the club provide like decoys and equipment, or is it on the members to provide your own stuff?
no, it's all your own stuff, and there. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some that do, but they might provide like a dozen decoys or something in the blind.
Mm.
So,
So where you're
yeah.
hunting, what's a normal setup look like? I mean, how many decoys you guys throwing? I'm assuming there's like permanent blinds there, or are you kind of on your own to set up your own blinds and brush and stuff like that, or like what's a normal setup look like?
They'll go out and pre-season build the cattle panel A-frame blinds, and
Gotcha.
there was one place that I was hunting at for a little while, and they'd built a blind and they just left it there for a couple years, and I mean, but they smashed birds there, and it really depends on the time of the year and how the ducks are reacting. Which would dictate kind of how the spread that you're going to put out. But I mean, I won't go out with anything less than like at least 4 dozen decoys. I mean, it's gonna suck because I don't have lifetime decoys. So, yeah, they're pretty heavy. So, yeah, it's no, I mean, we'll take a good spread out there.
What kind of species are you guys typically killing?
The puddle ducks. I mean, you get the diver ducks that randomly come into the prairie, and then like just not too long ago, I was on a veterans duck hunt with one of the organizations out here, and like we were shooting redheads out in the middle of the prairie. I was like, what is going on? Like, I mean, it was a beautiful redhead, and but no, a lot of teal. I mean, we kill tons of teal from, the beginning of September to January, where we're smashing teal, especially like, late January, mid January, if you will, close to the end of the season. I mean, these teal are beautiful. I mean, absolutely fully plumed blue wing and green wing teal, and I love them. I really do. I think they're beautiful birds. The way they fly is fascinating to me. But also, it's real fun also to shoot, widgeon or gadwall or any of those. Also, I mean, we've killed quite a few of those out here too. So
you have blue wing all season long.
yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty much.
That's
that's
so cool.
I spoke to one of our friends about this, and he's like, what do you mean you have teal like that all year? I'm like, I don't know, they're here all year, man. They just hang out. He's like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, man, they're always here. I mean, they're in groves. I mean, they're it's crazy. So that, and I'll tell you what, I mean, I could walk to the back of my neighborhood right now with, a shotgun and probably kill 50, black belly whistling ducks. They're everywhere. I don't ever remember that as a kid. I don't know what happened, but these ducks have come here and they stay here all year, and they're everywhere. So it's
kind of like how the geese went away. They filled the spot for some reason.
Yeah, dude. It's pretty crazy, man. I mean, every single night, I mean, hundreds of those birds are flying over my house, and I know where they go. And I'm just like, man, if I didn't have any kind of morals, I mean, I would just, I just go back. I mean, be having fun all the time.
And we don't get those. So what is the limit on those? It's not very many, right?
No, those are standard. I think that's just a 6. I mean, you can kill 6 of them. Yeah. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, I know there's probably a game warden, like, I know where that kid lives. Like, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to look in the outdoor annual, but I'm pretty sure you can kill 6 of them. But yeah, no, there's
looking
quite
up
a
here.
few.
I don't even know if that's on our.
I'm like, hey, look at what is this, black belly whistler? Yeah. But no, I mean, they're like I said, but those are weird birds, man. Like, I remember when I first moved home, I was ecstatic because I had gotten on a new club and things were going my way, and I had mallards, like neighborhood mallards, at like all over this neighborhood, and this hen had basically laid her eggs in my front garden, in my in my mulch. And I was like, what is going on? I walked out there one day, and I'm sitting there watching. I was like, what is she doing? I was like, oh crap, she's laying eggs right there. And I was like, this is pretty cool. And every single day, man, I would go out there and I'd line that freaking sidewalk with wild bird seed. And I would have mallards from like the entire neighborhood pooping all over the sidewalk and like doing all their stuff. And I'm just like, man, this is awesome. Like, I don't even care. Like, I just so excited to see these birds
all over the yard. It's all good.
Yeah, well, and then that's when I first saw these whistling ducks, and they were sitting up on somebody's house, and I was like, man, that's weird. Like, what's that duck doing up there? And yeah, it's just part of their thought process on that is
so we did have one fulvous whistling duck, not the black-bellied.
You can kill one?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't know.
So maybe the black-bellied,
like I said, I am.
I assume 6.
Yeah, I mean, that's that would be a lot for just one of those. I don't know if that would be worth it. So, but again, I mean, they've adjusted y'all's flyway into some of your numbers, and not that I always agree with some of that, but some of the guys are out there killing 2 birds, and they get a big spread, and they're like, all right, guys, let's pack up and go home. And that's got to be pretty tough mentally to go out there and you know for a fact that you're going to kill 1, maybe 2 birds, because that's your limit, and that's all you're going to see. And that has to be tough for some of those guys who don't have, the allotted time to hunt, where some guys can go out every day, and they're I'd say again blessed with a schedule that's flexible enough professionally where they could hunt every day if they wanted to. And those guys might not really care, but those guys, the weekend warriors that get out there, they're kind of, at times I'd call myself a weekend warrior because I don't have enough time to really devote to it like everybody else does in the industry, if you will.
And I think,
yeah,
I was
go
gonna
ahead.
say, I think it kind of circles back though. Like when you were talking about hunting North Carolina, and you might go out and shoot one duck, but just going out and enjoying the time out there, and kind of just taking it all in and learning like that. For the Atlantic Flyway, for probably 90% of the people, that's a big part of hunting, right? Like we know the birds aren't here, but we still put in the hard work, and it is what it is, right? Like,
yeah, I could tell you, man, I will never forget. Well, there was one morning we were hunting and it was cold, and I remember Seth, he woke up and he was like, man, I don't think I'm going to go. And I was like, man, I'm already up and I'm standing out in front of your house right now. We're going. Like,
I'm peeking in your window, bro.
yeah, like you need to get up. And so him and his son at the time, I forgot how old he was at the time, Austin, we're all sitting there, and it's cold, man. A big front had pushed in, and it was frigid. And some of the guys make fun of me because I'm like, I am the Mr. Buddy Heater. I mean, if it's like 45 degree, 50, you better bring that heater because I'm cold. All right. So, hey, it doesn't, Texas, it's a little bit different, but now it was 18 degrees and it started like sleeting / snowing on this intercoastal waterway. And I was like, what are we doing right now? Like, are we really doing this? I mean, we haven't shot anything, and we're sitting out here, and Seth looked at me and I looked at him, and as soon as I looked at him, he had his camera out and he was taking a picture of me with his phone. And I was like, yep, that's me over there shivering in the corner like a girl. Cause I'm just, I don't know the last time I've been that cold. But again, that's an experience for me in duck hunting that I doubt will be replicated because I just don't have that the way to do that here. So I appreciate those mornings, regardless of what the outcome was. Every one of them taught me something. So
hey, let me ask you here. You mentioned hunting Kansas. Do you typically try to hunt out of state like semi-regularly, or is that kind of a one-off thing, or obviously
so I for the last couple of years I've gone out of state and I've hunted in South Louisiana, and then I've also hunted in Kansas this year for the first time, and I can assure you that I will be going back. That was glorious. I loved every moment of that. Yeah, I mean, and it's a haul. It is, but the way the birds work there is weird. Like they do things that they don't do here, as in respond to calls. Like because they've been called at from Canada all the way down here, and by the time they get here, they're like, yeah, man, I hear you blowing a duck call, and I really don't care because I'm not going over there. But no, the experience that I had in Kansas will definitely push me into wanting to hunt more out of state. And again, hunting in South Louisiana, that's an experience on its own. And that's hunting public land down there. So
I believe that was with someone we had on prior, Christian, right?
Yes. Yeah. Christian Dubois. That's I would consider Christian a good family friend now. And it grew and it fostered from this show, which is pretty crazy to me. Yeah. So yeah, we have regularly, I think I talk to him at least 15 to 30 times a day. Like, it's constant. So, even when he's offshore, whatever he's doing, we're constantly communicating and talking about duck hunting or, what would you do here? What would you do there? Giving each other advice. And it's pretty cool. So
And Christian, if you're listening, congrats on your new son. That's awesome.
yeah, Mr. Jack Henry. Yes,
There
sir.
you go.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yep,
Now-
that's a big
now-
boy. It's like nine something pounds. Like, good
It-
Lord.
It's
Oh
legit.
man.
Now, Bobby,
Yeah.
I do have to bring a story out that he told me one time.
Oh jeez.
He said that
Gonna do him dirty like this, Dan, huh?
he said that he thought military boys would be a little tougher than what he found out they were after a little boat ride. I don't
Hey,
know.
let me tell you something. All right. This dude, all right, and mind you, my really my best friend, Brent Navarro. I mean, he and I both went down to South Louisiana, and I worked with Brent's wife in the Marine Corps at the Marine Corps Engineer School. We were both instructors there, and I met Brent, and then me and him started hunting together and hanging out, and now, I mean, pretty inseparable. But even though he lives in Tennessee, I mean, we try to do as much as we can with each other. But so we meet up down there, and we don't really know what's going on. We don't really know how we're going to be hunting. And Christian's looking at us, and he's like, "Yeah, we got to get out there at like 11:30 or midnight." I was like, "What? What did you say?" Now this is like my fourth mixed drink deep of bourbon, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna put this down because I need to work out for a couple hours. But we went out there, and it was dark, and it was cold, and it started pouring down rain, and I did not expect him to go as fast as he did in the dark. Because the light, it was functional when we started that boat trip, and about 400 yards into it, the light was no longer functional.
Oh
So
my God.
I mean, but you have to understand, and if you ever get a chance to hang out with him and down there and do this dude knows this thing like the back of his hand. I mean, he's just wow. It was crazy, and I'm sitting up there with a spotlight trying to trying to direct him to. I was like, man, this is pretty wild. I didn't think this was how this was going to be, but again, crazy hunting experiences like that. It was stuff that you tell your kids about later, like, you'll never guess what I did. And I was,
I met this crazy Cajun, and he took me in the backwoods.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's that was a good trip, man. And I can tell you that my eyes were probably as big as golf balls when I turned around and I looked back at him, and I was like, man, I think this dude's gonna kill us. But I mean, I to him at the time, I was like, yeah, I figure these dudes have done this before. I'm like, no, man, no, I have not done this at midnight. No. So
through here.
yeah, no. And I just last year, Christian and I did pretty much the same thing. But I was seasoned this time, so it was a little bit less scary. So yeah.
And then go ahead and talk about one of the best looking dogs I've seen in a long time, man.
So we had this chat group, which was fostered from the podcast and the listeners group, if you will. And Christian wrote in there one day, hey, is anybody interested in a dog? And actually, my oldest lab at the time, Millie, she had just passed probably, it was probably a couple months before that post. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested in a dog. And he's like, it's from Southern Oak Kennels. It's a red Leah pup. And I was like, awesome. And then he showed me the pictures, and yeah, I mean, I was like, I'm in. Just sign me up. Like, I don't know who I need to talk to. And the guy I talked to was actually another Marine, Lance May. And I drove to, was it Orange? I think Orange, Texas, and went and picked up Rooster. And yeah, I mean, that dog is something else, man. He is, it's crazy. I've never seen a dog act the way he does, and then also go out in the field and perform like that. Also, it like the way he is with my kids and my wife, and then how he can flip that light switch on. He's like, all right, let's go. Like I'm ready to party. And yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, and to the credit of the show itself, I mean, I would not have that dog for it not be for this show at all. I mean, there's no way. So and kind of, I don't know, man. I love that dog.
Dude.
Yeah.
I mean, talking with a couple people, Barton and like Jake Terry has a red pup, Rue, a girl, and have you trained dogs before? How easy was the training? I'm
No.
just wondering because they said,
Um,
I know that Jake said that like he has one dog out of cane and one dog out of red, and he said that she was like a firecracker compared to his boy who's out of cane. So I didn't know if
I've
that's
zero experience training dogs. And I didn't do it before. I tried it with my other black lab, but I didn't have the knowledge base of my friends that do train dogs and that know what they're doing, and that I could lean on and be like, hey, he's doing this and I don't know why, and it's pissing me off, and I just I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And boom, hey, do this, and this, and do it for a week, and then do it for another week, and then just keep rolling and just keep reiterating these things, and always tie it back to this. And honestly, that was Wade Skeen who helped me with that. I can remember very frustrating emails between him and I, that I was just like, man, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm doing exactly what I've been told to do, and he's just not doing it. And he's like, man, just give it time. Just give it time. Keep trying. Try it again another day. Don't get angry. Don't end on an angry note. Always end on a happy note. And then, just make sure that tail's wagging. And additionally with Christian, I leaned on Christian a lot too, for knowledge on just, man, like, what's Merle doing? What's Merle doing better than my dog right now? And it was everything. And I was like, how'd you get him to do that? He's like, man, I don't know, man. He's a real smart dog. He's eating crawfish and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I don't have that. So, yeah, what do we need to do? And honestly, I pick their brains every day. And now, I mean, Rooster is he perfect? No. Does he make mistakes? Yes. And I will take full credit for his mistakes. Do I train him as much as I probably should? No. And I will tell you, until he hit 2, I, he was the most frustrating dog on the planet inside of my house. I'm just like, dude, like, what is your problem? Like, are you serious right now? Like, calm down. Go outside. Just go away. You're making me mad.
Mm-hmm.
And after he hit 2, man, he curled up on the couch one day and just kind of hung out. I was like, hey, bud, what's going on? And he just sat there and looked at me, and I was like, all right, cool. I think we can be friends now. So, yeah, no, he's a great dog, man, and good companion for my kids. So, all credit again to the show and to friends for him. So, yeah.
I got to be honest. One of the best unintentional results of the show has been the ability to connect people across the country. And it's not even anything that Dan and I do. It's just putting people that are like-minded in the same room, figuratively, and just they just start talking, right, and things just happen organically because you realize that just talking to you right now, it's I've never talked to you before, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure we could go hunting and be great. the people that are into this kind of thing are just not that different, you know. We may do it different ways and live in different places and blah blah blah, but at the end of the day, you know, whether it's Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, Virginia, it's just duck hunting, and that's what's just cool about this. So it makes me really happy to hear about people, you know, connecting through the group and all that kind of stuff. So that's super cool. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of that going on that we don't even know about. We know about some of it, but you know, there's a lot of that going on. So really
Yeah,
cool
I can
to for
tell
that,
you,
for sure.
there's I have been in this chat group for I don't even know how long now, but we literally, as long as I've listened to the show, really, I mean, probably like 6 months after maybe after listening to the show, but uh, these guys, I mean, we talk every single day, all day long. I mean, it's insane. My wife is like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like,
What is her name? What is her name?
yeah. Her name's Travis. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. What's Travis
He's
wearing?
got great hair.
Khakis.
Sounds hideous.
Yeah. It's Jake from State Farm. Which actually is funny. When I say Jake from State Farm, it brings up one of my neighbors I met. I mean, he lives probably a block down the street, but he's got a golden, and he's probably 5 years old. His name's Jake, and I was out training rooster one day, and I was like, "Yeah, it looks like my dog with like long hair." And I was like, "Man, that's freaking cool! Like that's a cool looking dog. He's smart as a whip too, whistle trained. I mean, he's doing casting and all this stuff." I was like, "Man, that's awesome!" Like, and I look at Rooster, I'm like, "You could be that dog. You just got to grow your hair out longer, you know." So no, but kind of to tie back into what we were originally talking about, I met Ryan, and Ryan hunts public land down in deep South Texas. And I can tell you that I've been invited on a couple trips that I've had to back out on because of work, and frustratingly back out on. But I am excited for the time that I get to go there, because he sends me pictures and videos and stuff, and it's wild. I've never seen that much activity like that in an area off the coast. It's crazy. And guys are probably listening to the show from Texas and like, "Oh, that crap happens all the time." Well, I don't know about it. So, but I've seen it. You know, I've seen it from a friend of mine who lives down the street, and he tells me about it. And his son actually just shot his first redhead, probably, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. Little single shot, 410. He was shooting boss out of
Bill
it. And
410, nice.
yeah, man, he crushed it. Crushed it.
410. Nice.
Yeah, he sent me a video, and it's his son. You know, he's coming through full swing. Boom, smashes that bird, and it falls like right next to him. And I was like, "Man, that's awesome! Like, how epic is that?" So yeah, no, it just kind of heard Jake from State Farm made me start thinking about that dog. Man, it's a pretty awesome dog.
Does your neighbor's golden retriever have ear infections all the time like mine?
I don't know. My old
I think that's thing. I think my dog's just unique like that. He's gifted.
My old lab, and I don't know if it's genetic with them. Like, I don't really know how all that stuff works, but I do know that she used to have to go get her ears packed and get, you know, she had ear infections all the time. I was like, "Man, you stink!" Like, like I smell your ear, and it's just grossing me out. Like I can't handle that. So
yeah, mine's like that.
Coffee grinds. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So no, you know, kind of again talk about the camaraderie that came out of all this. It's pretty epic, man, and especially it helped me in ways that I never would have thought about. But kind of reflecting on it, you know, a couple years later. I was transitioning out of the military, and it was tough. I mean, it was a really, really hard transition for me. But it was more like having a platoon of dudes together again, and we would just talk all day about random crap. And then, you know, when it was time to do whatever, we did it, and then we got on with it. But then we just get right back in the chat group, and then just start going again. Yeah. And that was something that was pretty cool for me. And I don't know, other guys might see it that way or not, but it was
You know,
it was a
it's
helpful tool for me.
it's funny that you mentioned that because, a lot of times when I'm in a poor mood or I'm just like kind of off or whatever, particularly this time of year, it centers around like me not having gotten out and hunted a lot or much,
Yeah.
right? And my wife, she doesn't fully like understand like why that's a thing. She just like doesn't really get that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand why she doesn't get it. She didn't grow up doing it and like, whatever. But like that's the lifeline for me when I'm in those patches where it's like whether I'm tied down at work or I got something going on with the kids where I just haven't been able to get out. Like if I don't have those text message chains or those groups and I'm just like chatting with people and like just at least talking about it,
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd lose it. I'd freaking go nuts. So it's like, it's a small thing, right? I mean, like my wife literally is like, she's like, she's like, you're constantly on your phone. I'm like, I'm hanging by a thread over here. Just let me have this, right? Like this is like I'm this close. Just let
This
me
is
have this.
my time.
Yeah. But
Yeah, no,
it's a thing,
absolutely.
man. It's for real. Like, a lot of people listen to this right now. I guarantee you can be like, oh, I got that same string going that, you got a million people in there or whatever. And it's been going for who knows how long.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
And
It's just
revolves
like I
around
said,
this.
that camaraderie, man, it's just something else. It does something for you mentally that you don't really expect. And a lot of it revolves around waterfowl and how it draws people together. And it's not the killing. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with getting out there and suffering together, really. Is for me, it does. Like, man, like we're all out
Yep.
here and it just reminds me of crappy days that I had back in my former life that I, I'm like, man, I miss those days sometimes because they taught me things about myself. And hunting ducks does the same thing for me. Getting out there and grinding and not always having that satisfying emotion at the end. But then you have a culminating event where you're just smashing birds and you're just like, okay, I can keep doing this. This is a great day. Yeah. Because then you have those days where it's like, man, like I don't know why I'm waking up at 4 a.m., And then you get out there and you see a guy and his dad or his guy and his grandfather out there hunting together and just loving it. And not even caring about the fact that they whiffed on, a banded mallard. And they're like, well, it didn't matter. None of that mattered because it's spending time together with people that you love and people that that you trust and being able to be yourself for just that small moment in time before you have to, go back and do whatever. So,
But if you whiff on said banded mallard, you will talk so much crap on them that it makes it worth it. No, and
yeah,
I feel both you guys. Like my wife will be like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'll be like, Travis." And they're like, "Who's Travis?" A guy that lives up in Washington. Like
yeah.
DC or state? State. Have you ever met him? No. Don't you find that weird that you talk to people all over the country that you've never met before? I'm like, not really. Like I talk to him every day, and she's like, that's just kind of weird to me. I'm like, it is
Does
what
she
it
watch
is.
Dateline?
Unsolved mysteries, probably more.
Yeah, like
Right?
ID Discovery. Because so the other day, I told you guys before the show where I was working at, and in this area in Texas that I was working, I posted on this Facebook page in Waterfowlers of Texas. I said, hey, is there anybody out here that I was looking to go hunting actually tomorrow, but I ended up having to cancel it because I missed my wife's birthday on Thursday because I was working, and I was like, man, I feel bad. I need to go home. But
Good
um,
call.
the guy randomly messaged me on there, and he was like, hey, man, don't even worry about that. Just come hunt with me. Like, I got you. And I told my wife about it, and she was like, what if, he's got like an alligator farm out there or something, and he just feeds you. I was like, why would you think about that? Like, I mean, why wouldn't you say, like, what if you go out there and you just shoot, all the ducks that you've never shot before
So
in your
negative.
life? And I'm like, yeah, like, why can't we be positive about this? I mean, it's a good
But now
experience.
you have in your back pocket say, I lived through hunting with Christian, so I'm really not afraid of anything.
Tell you that. Yeah.
So Bobby, on a more serious note, and you kind of hit your time in the service and coming out and how that's helped you. Are there, I guess, any names that you want to drop? Any organizations, outfitters, anything that can help guys that might not find what you found in camaraderie?
You know, I'm personally on a club level. I'm still looking for that niche locally. It's tough to find sometimes. But I will tell you that my time in the blind spent with a guide. I have spent a lot of time with 2W outfitters, and I can tell you that those guys are more like family when you're in the blind with them. It's not a guided hunt. You're hunting with friends at that point. And they run a veterans hunt. They host it every year. And I was lucky enough to have them ask me to get involved with it and help getting groups of veterans together to go out there. And it was really great, man. And I was talking to vets that I didn't know them. Whatever. One of the guys was a corpsman and from the early days in Iraq, and he was like, "Hey man, do you think there's room in the blind for my other buddy?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool. Like, no big deal. I don't care. And we'll fill that blind up to where we're sticking out of the ends of it. Like, we're gonna have a good time." And just the way that everybody was able to come together on that hunt in those couple days, it was pretty magical, man. It really was. I was pretty ecstatic about that because I think I'm not going to quote anything on this, but one of the guys that I brought with me that I did not know, he ended up running into somebody that he'd been, buddies with in the Marine Corps from back in the day. And I was like, holy crap. Like that's pretty cool to me. Like just to be able to help do a connection like that, was, I don't know, I made it all worth it. So.
And that was two, like the number 2W?
Yeah. 2W. Yeah. Right. They're they do a lot of early season hunts in Texas, and then they have a huge operation in Arkansas. And James and Matt out there, and they're great, just great guys, man. I can't speak highly enough of them because they've always been really good. So yeah,
nice.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, they're just great guys. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, it's well, first I should say, Bobby, thank you for staying up. I know you're not in the same time zone as us, but it's 12:20 here. So I know
wow.
it's late. It's still late
I
where
didn't
you're
even
at.
notice that.
Yeah. But so I don't want to keep you any longer, man. I know you've been on the road and stuff, so I appreciate you making time for us tonight. But I've really enjoyed hearing your story, and it just validates for me. When we were talking with people online and our wives being like, have you ever met this person or whatever? I always have an interesting thought because I'll be talking with someone that, how it is, like, people on social media that you've never met, but you know them. And my wife will be like, who is this? I'm like, oh, this is so-and-so, lives out in wherever. And she's like, do you know this person? I'm like, well, yeah, but I've never met them, but I know them. Like, we talk all the time. But it's one of those things where when Dan and I record this show, we're talking to each other, but we know that there's like thousands of people out there just like you listening to this show that are just like us, right? I mean, that's sort of what we've always said all along is we're the same type of dudes that are listening to this show, and that's the honest truth. And just hearing you talk your stories and tell your stories, it just reaffirms that to me that's exactly who we're looking to reach and who who we like to talk to and talk about. So thank you for coming on here and sharing that story. I hope we get to do this more and tell more stories from around the country, because I think it's just cool for people to hear, from people that don't live in Virginia and Pennsylvania all the time. That's it's fun to hear stories from other places. So again, thanks for making time for us, man. We do appreciate it. And what how much season you guys got left? I mean, is it getting good down there now, or kind of what's the rest of the season look like for you?
Late season is really good here. That's when you're going to start seeing a lot more activity and birds coming in from from the upper areas of the flyway. And we got to get those fronts in. I'm still waiting on a bigger cold snap. I mean, we had a pretty decent front move in recently, but and there's birds out there. I'm telling you, there is. But like we talked about before, having that time to go scout and find them, that's another critical path. So
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but now while I'm thinking about this, I got like 2020 brain going on right now. But like, you guys had some hurricanes hit pretty hard in the Houston area this year. Is that right? Was that last year?
East.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Harvey in 18. I think it was at 18. Yeah. So that was because that was no, I don't remember. It was one of those years. No, 17. Excuse me. Harvey was 17 because that's right when I came home.
Man, that was 3 years ago.
I was gonna say that seems so fresh in my mind. Like that
yeah,
does not seem
yeah.
like
that was that was the third time my parents' house flooded for the third time, and yeah, that was pretty devastating for them. So
I always wonder how storms like that impact habitat, and then when it comes to migration time.
So like I could tell you when I was in a club and Harvey happened, and I had been watching teal, and after that I no longer saw those teal. So that they leave. I mean, when that barometric pressure change happens, it does something to every animal. I don't know whether it's deer, whether it's my child, whether it's whatever. So yeah. Yeah. They all start to act a little bit different. So you're going to have that shift, and what's crazy is what I notice it more with also is dove. Like we get a ton of dove here, and I love dove hunting. I've been dove hunting for quite some time now, and I could tell you that when that happened, man, all those doves left, and we were hunting over corn, like legally, and
caveat.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, and we had a bunch of dove, and then all of a sudden they were all gone. I was like, dang it, man, like, are you serious right now? Can I catch a break? Like, come on with these weather patterns. No, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, the weather does take an effect for sure.
Yeah, I imagine. All right, Dan, I'll give you one last chance here before we wrap this puppy up.
I mean, I just appreciate your time and good chatting with you, good laughs, and just keeping it real down there, man. Crushing it, heading all out, and doing what you do. And thank you for your service.
No, I mean, I appreciate you guys. You guys did a lot for me unknowingly, especially when I moved home. And it was incredibly helpful in ways that you can't even imagine. And I'm sure my buddy Brent Navarro can probably tell you the same thing. And a lot of guys that transition probably use this as a helpful tool to push them along. And I never saw it that way until I looked back, and I'm like, man, that's what got me through those hard days. So no, I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's really humbling to hear that. And we, appreciate all you guys and everything y'all do. And, yeah, man, but, well, thanks again for the time. Go ahead and wrap it up now. Let us know if you like this episode. Hit us up on social media or whatever. Let us know if you like these. We'll do more. And Bobby, man, appreciate your time. Happy holidays to you and your family. And take it easy, man. We'll see you around.
Absolutely, guys.
See you.
That's going to do it for this episode of the HP Outdoors Waterfowl Podcast. If you're new to the show, head over to iTunes, check out some of our past episodes, and while you're there, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It's the best way for like-minded hunters just like you to find our show. Check us out on social media. Check us out over at hpoutdoors.com and anywhere you can find quality podcast content. That's going to do it for this week. Till next time, for Dan, I'm Josh. Take care.